When we got engaged, it was right around the time that Borders announced that they were closing. Hillary's from Ann Arbor, I grew up in Michigan, and we both wanted to move back to Michigan, so we began pretty much immediately working on the business plan.
Immediately after we got engaged.
After we knew that this was a firm commitment.
We are Hillary and Mike Gustafson.
And we are the owners of Literati Bookstore in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
We often went to all the great bookstores in Manhattan and Brooklyn as part of our lifestyle.
Which were helpful when you're broke in New York because most of them are free. But it was a great way to interact with books and be a part of the culture of New York.
We actually thought that with Borders closing, there would be an opportunity for a smaller shop to open in Ann Arbor. I believe this could work because Ann Arbor, the downtown region, has such a similar experience as like a small community in Brooklyn that I inherently believe that business model would work here.
You know, it felt wrong to not have kind of a bookstore that would cater to the community in the way that Chum and Drum did and Borders did as well.
This whole notion of the community bookstore, a lot of people looked at us like we were crazy. Including friends, good friends, and some family. The storyline nationwide was that bookstores were dying and dead. Not just dying, but dead. When we moved back to Ann Arbor in 2012, I would say we probably took about 100 or 150 people out to coffee and lunch just to pick their brain and talk about the community and what a bookstore would be and how that would work. In our original business plan before we opened, we had built in to hire a full-time person at about year 3. We hired Jean full-time at month 5.
Well, it was a busy year for them. So I could tell that a lot of thought was going into this, that it wasn't just starry-eyed people saying, hey, I'm going to open a bookstore. And I felt like my experience at Borders would be helpful to Mike and Hillary.
Jean's role is...
Well, first let's get to Jean's nickname.
Which is Jean the Queen.
Or Jean the Inventory Queen.
She's just extremely knowledgeable about the business. She worked for Borders for 25 years or so and worked in operations, worked on the floor as a bookseller, used to be in charge of the front table on Borders and which books were displayed, and she does that for us now too.
I love fussing with the tables. I put the new books on a new hardcover table, and keeping it going throughout the week is a community effort.
She's especially proud of, as are we, her handling of special orders. A publisher was moving from one part of the country to the other, and the book that we wanted was on a truck moving across the country, and she tracked it down, and as soon as it got there, it was going to get here. Anyway, she's special for knowing that people have specific love for specific titles and making sure that people get them.
That's the main thing, I think, is attention to detail and loving books,
That first chaotic year, you and I were doing the events, and there were many problems with running a business and doing events. They're kind of separate responsibilities. Like how it was clear with Jean that she had incredible book knowledge, it was very clear that John would be the perfect person to head up our events department.
In the Ann Arbor community, I think Literati's events allow people to interact with writing they might not have encountered before. That was invaluable to me as a young reader. And I think the opportunity to interact with an author, even if you're just sitting and listening to them, is a special experience and has a kind of indescribable significance. Over the past 4 years, he's created a reputation for events being very special experiences here. John gives, I think, the best author introductions of anyone I've ever seen. And so this is what stories are for, in my estimation, to make sense of, if not this, then at least our tragic discomforts while carrying on regardless. As Twain thought, quote, always going and always following at least one law, always loyal to that one law, the law of narrative. We do, I think, like something like 200 something in-store events a year. It's incumbent on the bookstore to do a nice intro. Readers of books recognize that books relate to your life. I think that's why people read books, is to feel recognized or feel their experience as being understood. So yeah, I read the book, I think about how it relates to a common daily life, and then I say their bio at the end of it. That's the formula.
Claire's probably the most well-read 20-something I've ever met.
Yeah, I love Claire. She's
I love
just
Claire.
the best. She started with us her freshman year at University of Michigan.
As soon as this place opened, I was like, I need to work here. It's so beautiful, and they know what they're doing, and it just felt like magical.
Lots of people love books and read a ton, but not many can share that love with another person who walks in the door.
And she has a unique ability to relate to people and find books that people love to read.
I think I give really good recommendations, and that's like the most fun I have at work, is giving people recommendations for books that they're looking for and a book that they never thought they would be looking for. I think that's what I really have fun with. You know, with Mike and Hillary, they make it really easy for me to be like my best self. So it's really fun to come to work and be like happy and friendly and, you know, talk to all of these people around Ann Arbor about what they're reading and what they want to read.
There was a Mindy Kaling book that we stocked in the store before Claire was hired, and I think we sold 2 or 3 copies, and then Claire wrote a book recommendation for it, and it was our #1 bestseller for the following year. We get a lot of resumes from people looking for summer work, and that's not the candidate we're looking for. We're looking for somebody who wants to work for a bookstore for 30 years, which is...
Not many people.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not a super lucrative career. Obviously, it starts with like the community, but the community wouldn't be supporting us if it wasn't for our great staff and the hard work that they do and the passion that they bring. I mean, I just feel so lucky every day.
I think it's important to partner with local businesses, local organizations, local institutions, because it adds a level of creativity to the town that you live in. Book clubs, author events, ticketed events, unique offerings that you can do.
I think it's also a way to introduce our customers to other businesses and for businesses to kind of expose their customers to what we do here.
We don't want to be the only bookstore in town. We can only carry so much. We're 4,000 square feet, so it's good for us to have other vibrant bookstores in the area, and it's good for us to have them be successful, because if we don't have something, we'll send customers to a different store to find what they need. And over time, if people understand that they'll be able to find exactly what they're looking for somewhere within the downtown realm, then that's a net positive for the entire book community.
We try to broaden the conversations culturally and bring a wide array of voices to a community, whether that's fiction writers or nonfiction issues. We have our Literati book club, our feminist book club, our eco book club, our poetry book club.
The conversations that happen in our book clubs are conversations that don't happen right now. They're very respectful. They're between people that wouldn't have conversations outside of these kinds of spaces to exchange ideas.
Literati in general has built a wonderful community in that, you know, these people are all here to learn, and I think that really laid the groundwork for a feminist book club.
Claire created the feminist book club, and it was her own idea that kind of took off, and it's been a really important part of our store. It's always been important to her to read female voices, whether that is feminist-leaning nonfiction or reading female authors that are empowering for women and have different themes. I think our first meeting we had like 60 people show up, which was pretty pretty great.
The merging of those two things just made sense, the bookstore and the book club.
And it's funny, publishers now know that she runs the club and send her all kinds of manuscripts to be like, please consider this, because whatever she chooses ends up being a bestseller. And it's interesting, even people that don't come to the book club end up buying the book, and so it kind of creates a community of people who are thinking about themes that she's talking about, even if they don't show up to the book club.
So for us, getting the word out was the biggest challenge, especially for people who couldn't run a $100,000 advertising campaign. As a consumer, I like to know where my money goes when I spend it at a certain place. Our consumers like to know who's in charge of the business and that they live in Ann Arbor and that they pay more than minimum wage and that they're here and that they're working. I like to approach social media as sort of being like our online diary, and we just post what's happening behind the scenes or fun anecdotes that don't even necessarily have to do with book selling, but just living in Ann Arbor.
I like that approach, personally, more than someone marketing a specific book or event. Mike's always asking us, oh, what's the story of the day? Like, was there an interesting customer interaction or typewriter quote?
So I'm standing out on the street and I see a beautiful sunset. It's got nothing to do with books, but I'll post it, you know? It gives me the feels, so.
It's also a good way to connect with customers who were here for grad school or undergrad and have moved away and still want to know what's happening and still feel connected to Ann Arbor in a way.
One fun thing that we love to do on Christmas Eve is we like to take a selfie with us holding up a sign that says thank you and doing a little post just thanking people immediately that on Christmas Eve that day for the busy holiday season. That's stuff that you couldn't do 30 years ago, you know. It's immediate, it's a way to connect to people, and we like doing it.
When I've had the best reading experience, it's been with a cup of coffee and in a warm, inviting space, and that's kind of something that we wanted to replicate.
Literati Coffee was originally a business called the Espresso Bar, and it was owned and operated by Sandy Bledsoe, and we expanded to the top floor of this building here. And then Sandy decided he wanted to move on and do other things. And we took over and rebranded it as Literati Coffee, so our customers know it's all under the same diabolical ownership.
Kept a lot of the same staff who we had gotten to know over the years, who are extremely knowledgeable about coffee and passionate about the processes that they do to create the coffee, both in roasting and in preparing the coffee.
They are constantly looking to improve both products and the customer service aspect of what they do.
You don't just pick your coffee up at the counter. They bring you your coffee at your table. You're always taken care of in a way that I think some other coffee shops have kind of let go over the years.
For us, it's been a great way to get people into the space in ways that we couldn't do before. People will purchase a book in the bookstore, they'll come up here and order a coffee and just start to read and look out the window.
Coffee shops bring people into the space and create an ambiance and a vitality in a way that adds to the experience of the bookstore.
I just think that there's this recognition that Mike and Hillary have of how special bookstores are and how special they can be. They probably think about this bookstore all the time.
A lot of the things that we're working on in the short term are just infrastructure, because we've kind of outgrown our space and our staff has grown beyond what we initially had thought. We have a lot of focus to do more work with the schools in the area. I think that's something that we're going to be focusing on specifically.
This is a small business and it's always going to be changing and evolving, and I'm just really lucky that I get to be a part of that.
And I think we just work really hard to try to ensure our place within the cultural fabric of our communities, trying to be more agile and nimble than maybe we were in the past.
I like to think of bookselling and the rich history of bookselling in Ann Arbor as this continuous story, and there's many great bookstores in Ann Arbor and in downtown Ann Arbor. It's nice to be the next chapter of bookselling.
Growth is the future of Literati. I think when we started the bookstore, we were all worried, oh man, after this initial excitement wears off, what's going to happen? Like, what's going to happen when people stop coming into the store on a regular basis? And that never happened. We never started doing less events, and we never started having less busy weekends, and we never started having less employees. It certainly means that our presence in the community, I think, is going to grow and be shaped for the better by the community that has supported it.
Can I be honest with you? We're not working on 5 years. I'm pretty certain we'll be here in 5 years. We're working on 30 years. And I know that seems crazy, but we're trying to figure out how can this business be here 30 years in the future, and then working our way back, like what needs to happen for us to get there. Hopefully we'll have office space somewhere.